is Michelle O'Connor. I live within the United States in the city of Miami, Florida. I'm an artistic director as well as an artist for several beauty brands. When I'm not doing that, I also still do hair in the salon. Today I'm going to focus on curly hair cutting and a specific curl pattern within this genre. In the world of curl patterns of hair, there are identifiable charting systems that allow for the identification of a pattern. These patterns range from straight to coily, and within that, wavy and curly sitting in between. As the pattern progressively gets tighter, techniques surrounding how we navigate the hair within the services of cutting, styling, and coloring become a bit altered from what we tend to follow for straight and wavy patterns. As we speak specifically to coil cutting, which would fall under the 4A, 4B, or 4C category on a curl chart, we have to take into consideration how the hair is growing out of the scalp. This hair does not grow down. The pattern of curl is tighter and very much grows three-dimensionally. So this means that it grows up, out, and down. This is all dictated by the curvature of the head. What many people don't realize is that even though the pattern of hair gets tighter, the cutting principles remain the exact same. We are still incorporating verbiage like elevation, traveling guides, stationary guides, perimeter, and interior to distinguish the desired technique. Today I'll be demonstrating a basic cutting philosophy on my mannequin that you see right here. And as you can see, the hair is in its natural state. This is the way in which the client wears his or her hair. This should be the ask when a client comes in for a curl cut. Let's get started. Okay, so we are back to do our haircut, and on my coily mannequin, we are going to do a graduated bob. You see she's more of almost like a shag haircut. There's not like a distinctive bold shape to her hair. And one of the things you want to remember when cutting coil is that the principles of hair cutting still apply. It's still about a triangle or a square or a circle, and there's still a silhouette. There's still a perimeter. You want to get rid of the notion that you need a comb. I know a lot of people will feel like a fish out of water if they don't have some type of comb. A comb should not be used to comb the hair, but if you must have a comb in your hand, I recommend a very wide tooth comb, one that you can kind of just use as a place saver. Perhaps when you're cutting the perimeter, just to kind of make sure that you have a straight line. You know, I really stay away from a comb altogether. You also want to get used to the idea of using your fingers, right? You're not going to be in a situation where you are trying to comb the hair and part the hair. Everything about this feels very, very organic. And so basically all I will have as far as tools are concerned is just going to be my shears, and it's going to be my my clips to section the hair. You want to look at this client, have them come in with their curl in the way that they wear it, right? They are a coil client, a curl client. They're going to wear their hair in their best pattern, relatively clean hair. It doesn't have to be squeaky clean by any means. And you want to just find the apex, the high point, and create two halves, right? The front and the back, right there, right behind the ear at the mastoid. And I just have these very strong alligator clips, or claw clips, and do the same thing on the other side. I like to go always right behind the ear as a way to give me a little bit of an insurance policy so that I'm not creating any holes. What I want to do on her, again, is create some graduation and get rid of like this skinny little tail. So I'm going to go in and create my first section. So I'm going to go right below the occipital bone, and I'm going to clip everything else away. So this first part is important in terms of, this is where you're still going to create a weight line, right? So we know that the hair is living where it wants to live. We know that it grows up, out, and down. So we're just gonna position it to where it kind of is gathered a little bit and facing in a particular direction so that you can see and create a visual guide for yourself. So I just kind of worked my fingers through that. And now I'm just going to establish a weight line by visually determining where I want to create that. Okay? So again, just creating that weight line. And this is one of those times where, again, like I said, if you ever want to just have a comb as a placement, you certainly don't want to stretch the hair, but if you feel like it's getting away from you and you really want to have a strong perimeter, go ahead and use a very wide tooth comb. So there we have our first guide. And you want to shuffle the hair. What happens with curl and coil is that you'll have these stray hairs that sort of just bounce back out that you want to make sure are clipped and considered and cut as a part of establishing your weight line there. So this is not going to be an exact part. You're going to really, again, just be using your fingers to establish where you want that to be. And just sort of raking through, but not intentionally creating any frizz. You really just want to directionally move the hair to where you can see it and where it's sort of gathered to where you have some control. Okay, so that weight line, and I'm not pulling, I'm not stretching, I'm letting the hair live. And you see that little stray piece right there? I'm going to hold it down. One of the things that happens with curl and coil, which is why people leave and they think they've had a bad haircut, that corner, is because no two curls or coils are alike. You can have varying sizes of curls on one head, and because of that, you have shrinkage more in some areas than others. So if you are wetting the hair or you're stretching the hair and pulling it with tension to create precision, once it bounces back up, all that precision is going to be gone, and the tighter curl is going to shrink tighter, and the looser curl is going to shrink looser, and it's going to look uneven visually. That's why a curl cut is a cut that is a visual. So it's part technical, part visual. So this is where I'm going to start my graduation. I'm right here at the occipital bone, and I want a 45 degree. So that principle holds true, 45 degree. So there's my technical, and then now I'm eyeing the rest of it. Went from the center. I'm going to have a slight stationary guide, very slight, because I am following the shape of the head as well. And by the time I get to this very, very last corner piece, that is where I'm going to have the most over direction in the name of preserving length in the front as well as not creating a hole. So again, a visual demonstration of some technical, shaking it, redistributing. I'm going to turn this to the corner so that you can see. You can see where that 45 degree graduation is still there, even though there's all of this texture, all of this pattern within. I'm going to go back to my center and do the same thing. Slight stationary. We know that we have a guide with 45. Part technical, part organic. And by the time I get to my very last piece, it is a very over-directed a very over-directed guide. All right. And I'm going to pull down the next section and continue on with my graduation. So as I continue on, I'm going to follow the same pattern, and we are creating more elongation and more length in the crown by keeping it at 45, and it's almost a reversal of what we had before, whereas the crown was shorter and a lot of the length was below, creating almost a shag type look. So I'm reversing what she had in an effort to create more substance to the hair. It's going to give the hair a fuller appearance. And I think it's important to sort of talk about some styling features when it comes to like styling to support, you know, a haircut. You know, one of the things that you automatically get with hair that is coily is you get volume. Whether the hair is fine, medium, or coarse, you get volume. And what happens with styling options and volume is one of the things that is not so easy to get is length, right? So you have that length that was sitting there underneath, but the hair still looked thin, still looks skinnier. Whereas now there's a reverse of the shape. And I took that last section. It's a rather large section. If you wanted, you could subdivide that again and work in smaller sections. But through experience and through years of being able to manage and work through tighter patterns of hair, I've learned what it takes to kind of just navigate. And so experience will teach you that. And I'm really just looking to finish that shape with the back portion of the hair. You see those little random areas that really didn't have a place. They were just very stray, almost like someone that might have just been growing their hair and hadn't really gotten a haircut. I'm gonna tell you, the curly and coily client is afraid of getting their hair cut in the salon, which is why I really want everybody to be a curl and coil cutting expert, because they are so traumatized by, you know, the haircuts of the 90s and the early 2000s that it's time for us to redeem ourselves, if you will. So there you see a very distinctive shape there. Beautiful, right? We see a very distinctive shape, and now we want to continue on and create that A-line effect in the front part, right? So we're going to continue with the 45 degree, but we're going to now, instead of establishing perimeter first, we're going to marry it to the graduated parts of the back. So this is a very, very much of an over direction. We want to create as much elongation in the front as possible, and she has it. She certainly has it to give. So again, there's creating that, and you see how it's all connecting. It's all, see, shaking is good because that lets the stray hairs sort of work themselves out. We're gonna do the same thing on the other side. Notice that I only used a comb to demonstrate that first part, but traditionally I would have no comb in my hand ever. You're gonna get used to being one with hair. It's a lot about feeling. It's a lot about using the mirror as your truth teller. It's a lot about understanding that there are technical aspects to cutting curl as well as just creative and artistic aspects. I like to say it feels very much like you are a gardener, right? It feels very much like you're a gardener and you are pruning and creating this beautiful landscape that we know of as hair. Okay. And I'm going to take down the next side panel, right? Leaving what would be mostly the area in the crown, which is tons of fun because we get to really have a lot of options when it comes to that. And that can be a very full, voluminous fringe. That can be, you know, more of a side swept bang that has a lot of volume, but a lot of options to go, you know, either side from left to right, to also be pinned back. So we're doing the same pattern. We haven't changed. We're just over directing that front piece. And again, keeping that direction, that over direction, and as well as keeping the guide at a 45. So very low. We're looking to keep as much elongation, as much length in that crown area as possible. Repeat on the other side. And you see where all of this very easily gets married together. And this is the last piece. And we'll continue on with the fringe. Okay, so here we are. This is the silhouette so far. We have our graduation all the way around. Okay, you can see how that's very precise. It's very clean. It's a very, very sharp outer perimeter. And now we're going to go into the fringe. So I think what's really popular these days is to see a full, voluminous, forward-facing, three-dimensional fringe. And so we're going to follow the principle of gathering in the sides, right? Leaving it a little bit longer. I'm gonna just take out some of that because I feel like I want to have a little bit of control. So gather that. I'm going to pinch to gather everything, and I'm gonna just cut in a circular half moon section. All right, let that expand. We also want to give allowance for when we go in and wash and style, because you are going to automatically get a little bit more shrinkage than someone wearing their hair for a few days and coming in. And so we're gonna do a similar thing that we did to the back, where we take that guide, we're gonna elevate it a little bit, and straight 90. We're gonna bring the side over to the center. This is where we're gonna create a little bit of volume in the fringe, and that guide in the center is stationary, so we're finding it. There it is. We're bringing the sides over to the center. All right, and that's going to start giving the lift. So that is the technical, and now we can go in and we can do a little bit of carving, right? So we can just carve a little bit of a U into that fringe as we see it visually living. Okay, we're going to continue on until we get to the very, very high point, that tipping point where if you were to take a comb and lay it, it would literally be the point where it lifts off from the head. That is the apex, the highest point of the head. And that is where I usually like to have the point or the tip of my fringe. And I'm just gonna elevate that a little bit more than 90. And again, bringing it to the center, just to leave those corners longer. And now we're starting to have a lot of volume in that fringe area. So now we're gonna go to everything that's left, and we're gonna let that fall, be the natural fall. And we're gonna lightly connect everything, right? So there's a little rounding, but it's how we're going to connect it all, and it should feel like a pie, right? So if you were to take a pie and go from the center and cut it evenly so everybody gets a slice. Again, we're not looking to create a lot of shorter pieces in the crown. We're just looking to connect what's in the crown versus what's below it. And I'm just rotating again, that pie shape, pie partings. Finding the short piece. And so we have naturally a center that is longer, and it's just marrying it all. It's not really creating a new weight line. It's just connecting it so that it all is cohesive. So that is our final look. You can see that she's got a little bit of rounding with the connecting point that we made. She's got a distinct weight line, distinct graduation. And this is, again, I would have that client bend forward. I would have that client shake, 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 because we want to see that hair fall where we need it to fall. And right now I would just go to this one curl because it's just falling out a little bit longer. And then other than that, that's it. That is our haircut. That is your coily cut. Thank you so much for watching. I truly hope you learned some valuable tips and tricks on cutting type 4 hair. Now it's your turn. We want to see you apply these learnings in action. So go on Facebook to join our Power of the Collective Facebook group so that you can share your learnings, post your assignments, comments, and questions to our amazing stylist community. Till next time.